Hi everyone, John from LookSmart Home Inspections right here in New Jersey. And I want to talk to you guys today a little bit about laundry rooms and home inspections. And you would think that a laundry room is a pretty innocuous room in a house. You know, you just do your laundry in it, you fold some clothes. But, you know, there are things that home inspectors here in New Jersey are going to look for just to make sure that there's no problems in that laundry room. And actually, a laundry room can be very, very vulnerable to water infiltration, flooding, leakage, and also some safety hazards. So it's important to understand what home inspectors are going to look for when they inspect your house and the laundry room. And also, if you're purchasing a home or even in the laundry room in your own home, there are some certain things to look for that are important. And one of the first things that a home inspector here in New Jersey is going to look for is the valve configuration in the laundry room. What kind of valves do we have that are supplying the washer, the hot and the cold water supply to the washer? What kind of valves do we have? Do we have old corroded gate valves that are not reliable? Or do we have modern ball style valves which are much more reliable? Or do we have a one-touch laundry valve, which is an easy way to turn off water to the washer when you're done, washing your clothes? So the first thing we have to assess when we inspect a laundry room is what type of valves do we have that are supplying water, hot and cold side water, to the laundry. And we always want to make sure these valves are super reliable. And these are probably one of the most important set of water supply valves in the home. Because if something goes wrong or a hose ruptures, you really want to be able to turn off and isolate the washer without having to run down to the basement or the crawl space to turn off the main water supply to the home. Now, that's certainly a good way to do it, but to quickly isolate the washer is definitely advantageous. And what is also advantageous to be able to turn these valves off when you're done with your clothes washing, or if you go on vacation. I like turning these valves off after I'm done washing clothes. If I'm leaving for the day and I'm going to be gone 8-9 hours, I don't want to come home to a bunch of water, flooding my basement or flooding from the second floor down. It can cause catastrophic damage if things go wrong here. So the first thing that we're going to look for, good home inspectors here in New Jersey, we're going to look for good, reliable water supply valves for the washer. We also want to make sure that we have good hoses that are also supplying water to the washer. We don't want any old rubberized brittle hoses because this water is under pressure. And if those hoses were to rupture, that's going to spill potentially gallons upon gallons of water at high pressure all over your laundry room. And if your laundry room is located in the second floor, you have a massive problem. So we want metal mesh covered hoses. We want excellent, good quality hoses. Toss the hoses that come with the unit when you purchase it and go and invest in good quality metal mesh style hoses. They're going to last a lot longer. And you want to replace these hoses roughly every 5 years. We don't want anything to happen here. If something happens here, it's very, very crucial, that we have a good, reliable system. So the next thing we're going to look for as home inspectors here in New Jersey is to make sure these valves are accessible. Many times we're going to go into a laundry room and these valves are going to be behind the unit, on the side of the unit. And this is especially true in like condos or townhouses for some reason. But a lot of the times they don't make the valves accessible. So if the valve is not accessible, you're not going to use the valve to turn it off, right? So we want these valves easily to access. And we don't want to be, if they're behind the unit or the side of the unit and you're there in the house alone, moving that washer and dryer out from the wall is very, very challenging. And sometimes your main water valve to the house is not easily accessible. And that's another story. Sometimes those valves are in horrible condition also and not reliable. So we want accessible valves, we want excellent good quality valves, and we want hoses that are super reliable and metal mesh style. So we have a good trifecta to help prevent water damage in this very vulnerable, laundry room. So the other thing that we're going to look for is how the washer drains, right? And a lot of times it'll be draining behind the wall in what we call a standpipe. So a standpipe is just a, pipe behind the wall, or sometimes it's exposed. The washer discharge enters into the standpipe and it discharges in there. At the bottom of the standpipe, there should be a trap, right? So we don't get sewer gas, entering the home. So the standpipe has specific requirements. We're not going to go into the weeds here on exactly the specific requirements, but it has to be tall enough and it has to be a 2-inch standpipe. So that column of water that's heavily discharging from the washer can actually enter that and not have that water column not back up from the standpipe and causing damage. So good home inspectors are going to look also at the configuration of the standpipe, make sure the trap is there, make sure the trap is high enough above the level of the floor. And there's a lot of things that we can look at as home inspectors here in New Jersey for that laundry configuration. And sometimes we'll find the laundry, if it's in a basement, going into a sink. That's fine too. We need to make sure that there's a lint trap and that discharge pipe, it usually looks like a horseshoe, doesn't sit below the level of the sink rim. So as that laundry water fills that laundry sink, we don't have the potential of getting a backflow or a siphoning of the dirty water contaminating the potable water, in the home. But I just really want to just touch on that. But there are a lot of things that good home inspectors are going to look for in that configuration, for sure. And I know a lot of you guys want to have your laundry convenient in the second floor, and it is convenient, right? It's excellent. It's right in the hallway or right off the master bedroom or something. And you have easy access to the laundry until, there's something that goes wrong. So if your laundry is in the second floor and something goes wrong, you can cause a significant amount of damage to the house as that water leaks out and floods downward. So we want to make sure there's some type of protection there. A drain pan should always be installed in a second floor or third floor laundry area or closet just to catch any leakage. And it's in fact better if the drain pan is actually piped out to, the wastewater system of the house. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're just a catch pan. You know what? But we'll take it. It's better than nothing. And what I want to do is always recommend that we install a water alarm there just to alert you if there's a water leakage or flooding from that washer. It might give you more time, to react to a problem than just, having no drain pan. No drain pan is a problem. And if there's some of these in the second floor of newer homes actually have a built-up threshold and a drain in the floor. So it's actually, you have the floor of the laundry closet or room actually constructed like a shower pan would be. And this is an excellent configuration. But with this, you have to make sure that your trap in that floor drain doesn't run dry. We don't want to have sewer gas or odors entering the home. So make sure that you periodically pour some water down that drain. But first of all, make sure that you talk to the builder that, hey, you know what, is that laundry drain discharging into the waste system of the house. You don't want to pour that water down that drain and have it end up, in the garage or, some other place. So make sure that it's actually, piped out to the waste system of the home. The next thing good home inspectors here in New Jersey are going to look for is dryer ventilation. And there's so many things that can go wrong with dryer ventilation. Okay, so it's a video in itself, dryer ventilation. I actually made a video about dryer ventilation, but some of the basics is that we want that dryer to be pumping out to the outside. Okay, we don't want to have that going to a garage or a crawl space or into a sock or a container. None of that, because that moisture-laden air is going to cause damage to the house. That moisture-laden air is going to go upward. It's going to settle in your attic, and it's going to create probably a mold problem unless you have a super ventilated attic space. We're also looking for the type of materials. A lot of times I'm surprised, but I still see those plastic or, dryer vents, which are actually a fire hazard. They're considered a fire hazard. We don't want that high heat running through that plastic, so we always tell our clients to replace them with rigid piping. Rigid is also always better than flexible if possible. Now, the flexible you want as short as possible behind the dryer vent, and you want rigid certainly behind the walls. We look for also, home inspectors are going to look for where the termination is in relationship to the to the position of the dryer inside the house. We never want to have that like 30 feet away. Sometimes I see them, the dryer is on one side of the home, and the discharge for the dryer vent is on 30 feet the other direction. That's just too long. And every time you make an elbow or a turn in the dryer vent pipe, you're actually constricting and causing more friction inside for the airflow. And you're allowing potentially to have more lint buildup in there. So we don't really want to have a super long dryer vent pipe. There's a lot of rules that we follow and check as home inspectors here in New Jersey. But, just to give you an idea that we cannot afford to not look at the dryer ventilation, because it can be a safety hazard. If there's a gas dryer, we want certainly that dryer venting to the outside. We don't want any carbon monoxide risk. We want the steam venting to the outside. We want to check the dryer vent termination for a screen. We don't really want a screen on there, and we don't want to have a lot of lint buildup in there. So we want a nice homogeneous, continuous rigid pipe as best we can, so the dryer vents efficiently and it also vents safely. So dryer venting is something that home inspectors are always going to look at, and it's crucially important. I like to always track down where the dryer is actually venting to, and it's sometimes difficult, especially if you have a condo or a townhouse, to figure out where that dryer is going to. But it's very, very important for the customer to understand that and to make sure that is safe. We never want to have dryer ventilation problem, because it is a safety hazard. Speaking of another safety hazard, many times the dryer is going to share space with a furnace and a water heater, like in a utility room or a closet. And when this happens, we have to make sure that there's adequate, what we call combustion air or fresh air going into this room, right? We never want to have a door shut and we have all these combustion appliances just sucking air. And after they use up all the oxygen in the room, you're going to have a negative pressure condition, and that's where we can have backdrafting and health issues and significant safety hazards there. So we never want to have a backdrafting of carbon monoxide for any of these fossil fuel burning appliances. That is a major, major problem. So we always want to make sure that there is adequate ventilation in these laundry rooms, in these utility rooms. So ideally you want a high vent in the door, a low vent in the door, and you have to be kind of careful with louver doors, because you would think a louver door would be adequate, but many times the louvers are very tight and they're not adequate. So when in doubt, home inspectors here in New Jersey are going to call that out, and we really want to make sure that we have good combustion air requirements for these fossil fuel burning appliances, and most people are going to have a gas dryer. If you have an electric dryer, then that doesn't apply. But you always want to make sure that your client is going to be safe, because this is not something on most people's mind. They don't think in terms of combustion air. It's something that they never really learned or know, and why should they? They're not home inspectors. or service professionals, so they don't know that. So it's up to us to kind of bring to light any of these safety issues, so they can, for sure correct them. Another thing along the lines of safety is electrical. If we have a sink in the laundry room, a lot of times we'll have a sink there. We need to make sure that that electrical outlet there is GFCI protected, especially we're by the water source and the sink. So that's crucially important. We always want to examine if there's an electric dryer, the electrical receptacle for the electric dryer. This is a heavy receptacle with a heavy plug on it. And sometimes that's going to work loose. Sometimes you'll actually see it loose. We want to kind of give that a little jiggle, make sure that that's safe and not going anywhere. So we always want to make sure that our electrical makes sense in the laundry room, that it's safe. There's really no glaring electrical problems in the laundry room, because that is just like a bathroom. We have a lot of water obviously going in the laundry room. So that's important. As home inspectors, we're also going to look for moisture problems in the laundry, because if the dryer's not venting correctly, we can get mold on the walls, on the ceiling. We can see streaks caused by hard water stains sometimes on the walls, and we can see damage to the flooring. So we always want to inspect our flooring. If there's a tile floor, many times we'll find the tiles loose because they were exposed to water. If it's a wood floor, sometimes we'll see it stained. And one of the things that I really like to do, and sometimes it's difficult to do, is actually look behind the units and check out behind there. I like to shine a flashlight down there to see if there's anything important there going on. So that's important. Is also, we want to make sure if we have a gas dryer that we have the proper cutoff, and that the appliance connector is looking good, and that's safe and the right size. Sometimes you'll see all kind of crazy funky gas connections, but as long as that's looking good. And that's kind of the overview of what you would think would be a simple room in a house, but to do the inspection, it actually takes some time. It's not something that you really want to rush. And obviously also a good home inspector here in New Jersey is going to test both the washer and the dryer. We're going to run them through at least a partial cycle, because typically they stay with the house. I mean, it's not really our job to define the age of these units, but you can tell if it's old, if it's new, and sometimes you can decipher the date code. It's a little harder with appliances, but sometimes you can. You do a little research on that. But we're going to run both, and then we're going to do a thorough inspection of the laundry room. It's really, really important, especially if it's in the second floor of the house. So that kind of gives you a little bit of an overview of some of the things that home inspectors are going to be looking for in your laundry room or your laundry closet per se. So if you have any questions about laundries, if you have any questions about home inspections or a home that you're thinking about buying, or even your own house, I'm John from LookSmart Home Inspections. Been a home inspector for 25 years here in New Jersey, still going strong. I appreciate you guys watching, and if I can help you in any way, just reach out. We'll see you next time.